Hello and welcome to the Fortress West Point Sprint 5 review video. Our sprint goal was to have a completed promotional video for the American Revolutionary War Museum, successfully execute the museum presentation and panel, have an integrated application live and running on the Apple App Store, and then successfully conduct and apply user testing for the final version of the application. Our expected capacity was 181.5 expected hours. We came in just below that with our actual scope of 178.5 hours. Overall, we feel as though we kind of met our sprint goal, but some unforeseen issues with Apple and getting that live on the App Store kind of contributed to not meeting our originally intended sprint goal as it was written.
In this sprint, Alex and I, Ryan, worked on integrating the different three-dimensional objects and the Great Chain into our already made GUI for the app. First, we started by implementing the objects that Spencer Welton created under the different hotspots. For example, when you travel to the different hotspots, the corresponding objects would appear. Once we integrated that, we then moved on to integrating the Great Chain. Now the Great Chain, we had to use completely different code than Spencer Welton's code, because while Spencer's code just shows the floating markers, the Great Chain actually has a completely different storyboard and set of code. The hardest part with integrating the Great Chain was that Craig Sheets' storyboard and Alex and I's storyboard was much different. And so in order to connect them and get them to work properly was much more difficult than getting Spencer Welton's code to work with ours. And Spencer Welton only had a single storyboard that we needed to connect with a single segue. Once we got this working, we then worked on uploading this app to Apple. Now, we ran into a few pitfalls in uploading it, where originally we needed to record a video of the app working. We recorded the video and uploaded it again, and then needed to include some location information. But then lastly, we uploaded it, and we've been running into the problem of that you actually cannot use beta versions of the software, which unfortunately our app does not work unless you use the beta version of Xcode 9.4. And so because of this, we cannot actually upload the app onto the App Store yet. Once it leaves beta mode, we'll be able to upload it, and we'll be leaving continuity packets for the next group to upload this app onto the App Store.
Hello, my name is Cadet Spencer Welton. For this sprint, I was responsible for finishing the 3D markers that represent the 4 different characters whose stories we are telling. I also made sure that the correct plaques displayed with the appropriate marker. After this was accomplished, I assisted Cadets Wilson and Gelishvili in incorporating the models into the UI. We then made sure that each marker showed up at the correct location. Moving forward, future teams using the templates we have created will be able to use them to tell more stories of the contributions made by these individuals around West Point. They'll also be able to add their own 3D models to represent new historical figures who all played a role in West Point's defenses.
Stabilizing the Great Chain by Cadets Craig Sheets and Tyler Wilton. After last sprint, one of the chief problems we ran into was the instability of the chain in its position on the Hudson Fjord. Talking with the other group and doing research, we were able to come up with 2 potential solutions in order to stabilize the chain.
The first solution we discovered was to place the chain on a separate portion of the node's rectangular plane. As the image of the Hudson was detected, a node was created at the center of that detected space, and rectangular plane was overlaid on that augmented space. The chain had to be dimensionally transformed to be properly angled on the Hudson, which led to an angular instability. The solution involved moving the position of the chain's placement on the rectangle to the bottom left-hand corner, closer to its native position. This solution was unsuccessful because, while it was good at stabilizing a symmetrical object such as a cube or a sphere, it couldn't successfully place the chain in such a way that an angular transformation was not still necessary.
The second solution we came up with came to us via collaboration with the Point2Hawk group, the other augmented reality team. They had run into similar issues with their AR image recognition, in that it was constantly attempting to re-recognize the image, and thus was shifting around the AR anchor node and its attached object. To help mitigate this, we added another renderer to the view controller Swift file, which allowed the image recognition to stop as soon as the detected image had placed the original anchor node. This meant that the original placement of the chain had to be perfect, because it would not shift around, as it would not continue to re-recognize the image and the environment.
Our primary roadblock was time constraints. Preparing for our panel in Philadelphia and our Project Day presentation, along with the time it took us to maneuver and set up out by Trophy Point, were the primary contributors to this. Poor weather conditions also played a role in preventing us from testing our app on class days when it was raining outside. Lastly, as in sprints prior to this, the lack of relevant projects and other works on the topic has made troubleshooting specific issues we run into far more difficult and a much more time-consuming task.
In order to maximize the ability for future AR groups to pick up where we left off and hit the ground running, we've put all of our materials and code on the SharePoint. This includes all of the templates for our historical markers, as well as the finalized code for our app. We will also be providing detailed instructions, which we were given by Andrea Minotti of Apple, for how to upload our app to the Apple App Store in case our app still isn't accepted by Apple by the time we graduate. By creating a framework for GPS-based historical experience enhanced by the technology of AR, we hope that other EECS cadets can expand on this concept to cover more of West Point's rich history.
This was the last sprint of the capstone, and now we're essentially just about complete with the course. In the next lesson we have left, we're going to just make sure that all of our files are up on the SharePoint for continuity for future sprint classes, and then, future capstone groups, and then we're going to make sure that we keep trying to find a solution and work with Apple to hopefully get a product live on the App Store before we graduate.